11th, 2023, Board of Education meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to take a moment of silence for 9/11. What's this going to Jared? Where did it go? Oh, okay, good enough. Do you want to start?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and if we can have a moment of silence for our 9/11. Thank you. We're going to start this evening with the PCS All-Stars. Did you want to? Let's go up to the podium. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be with all of you tonight. I'm Kevin Case, the interim superintendent here in the Plainville Community Schools. And I'm joined by Lori Consalvo, who, of course, is chair of the Plainville Community Schools Board of Education. And as is tradition at every board meeting, as I've come to find out, we want to recognize people who have done tremendous work on behalf of the Plainville Community Schools community. And so tonight, the Board of Education, administration, and I want to recognize Mr. Mike Smith. Mike, if you could please come on up here. Mike, you're our Director of Facilities. Do I have the title correct?
Yeah.
What's your official title?
I do everything.
I know you. No, I know you wear many hats. I just want to make sure I get it correct. But Mike oversees all of our facilities, and the Board of Ed administration and I want to thank Mike, who consistently performs demanding duties in an exemplary, he's trying to say, in highly professional manner, and who always demonstrates extraordinary management and leadership skills. And this summer was no exception. Mike will be talking in a few minutes about all of the building projects that took place in each of the schools, and I know the community will be pleased to see what projects occurred over the summer. And then, of course, we have the usual things that happen. The power goes out in a couple of the buildings, and there's a leaky sink here and there. So it's all those things that take a lot of time and effort. And Mike, you do that in an extraordinary way. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to do a picture.
Absolutely. The next person we would like to recognize as a Plainville Community Schools All-Star is Sandy Bouchard. Sandy, can you please join us up here at the podium? Sandy has done an extraordinary job overseeing our custodial and maintenance staff. Sandy, your contributions and immense care for our buildings has fundamentally impacted the custodial team. Your passion has set an example and continues to leave a lasting impression. Sandy and Mike make a tremendous team, And not only is Sandy an excellent manager, she is a hands-on person. Anytime you need her to do something, Sandy, you are right there doing that. 24/7, always with a smile on your face. So you're exemplary, and you and Mike have set an example for our entire custodial and maintenance team. And we wanted to recognize both of you tonight because you represent the entire maintenance facilities team. So thank you for your leadership and for all that you've done and continue to do. We'll get a picture. Now, if we could have Lori Peterson, please join Lori and myself here at the podium. Right here is fine. Right here is fine. Lori, as I said to you a few minutes ago, I'm sorry that I have not had the opportunity to work with you as a board member here in the Plainville Community Schools. Lori has devoted 10 years of her life serving the Plainville Community Schools as a Board of Education member. Lori has made the decision to retire right now from the Board of Education, but may leave the door open for coming back in the future, which I'm really thrilled to hear. Being a board member myself before I became superintendent in my hometown, I can tell you that I believe it's the most challenging yet rewarding way to give back to the community. Your service here in Plainville has been extraordinary, and we, the Board of Education, Lori and I, couldn't let you leave without recognizing you and thanking you for your service. So we have a certificate to present to you. Lori, for your service as a member of the Plainville Board of Education from December 2013 through August 2023, we thank you for your loyal dedication and commitment to education and to excellence. Your presence has enriched the lives of students in the Plainville Community School System, and Lori, your service has served as an example for all. So please accept this certificate on behalf of the Plainville Community Schools Board of Education, and please don't be a stranger. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. This is for you. Do you want to put it on the table? Or? Do you want me to put it on the table? No. She wants to do a quick picture. A quick picture?
Just trying to figure out where.
Yes. With Lori's departure from the board, Lori and I want to welcome Mr. Jared Bruises to the Board of Education. Jared, thank you so much for your willingness to serve our community, and we welcome you to your first Board of Education meeting as well. Also, over this, yes. Also, over the summer, we received word from CABE, which is our Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, that Crystal St. Lawrence, due to her commitment in attending several professional development opportunities for board members, received that designation from CABE as an outstanding board member leader. And so, Crystal, we want to thank you also. Thank you for all you do and for attending our CABE activities. So with that being said, let's take about an 8-minute break so we can enjoy some cake and cookies and congratulate Sandy and Mike and thank Lori for her service. Thank you, everyone. So please help yourself to refreshments.
Thank you. We are going to resume our meeting. And I, again, would like to congratulate everyone who received their awards this evening. We have 6 sets of minutes this evening, lines A through F. If there are no objections or corrections to the minutes, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve items A through F, which include minutes of the June 1st special meeting, meeting of the board, minutes of the June 5th regular business meeting of the board, and minutes from June 5th special meeting of the board, minutes of June 13th special meeting of the board, and August 16th special meeting of the board, as well as August 16th special meeting of the board.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to citizens' comments. If you'd like to address members of the Plainville Board of Education, you are welcome to do so. You will have 3 minutes to voice the matter at hand or your area of concern. Does anyone wish to address the Plainville Board of Education? Does anyone wish to address the Plainville Board of Education? And does anyone wish to address the Plainville Board of Education? All right, moving on. Val, do you have a report?
And we also want to welcome Maya, who is our new Student Board of Education representative. Maya, welcome to your first Board of Education meeting. It's great to have both of you here tonight.
Good evening, all. We're really happy to be back at PHS and are excited to be starting the school year. School started off on August 31st, which was my birthday, and classes have been running on a normal schedule since September 1st. We do have a new principal, Ms. DiLorenzo, who's here with us tonight, and a new vice principal joining Mr. Coe, Ms. Hickey. There have been some changes to the regular routines at PHS, which will be discussed later in this report. The fall sports season has also started up, so there will be some discussion of that. And games are already happening, and clubs should start meeting shortly.
The fall season has begun with an amazing start with the amount of student athletes involved, and we are hopeful for a safe, exciting, and successful season. I would like to announce the captains for each sports team. The cross-country team's new captains for the 2023 season are Penley Giola, Olivia Marichek for the girls, and Chase McNamara for the boys. The first meet will be tomorrow at Bristol Central. The boys' soccer captains for this year are Zarel David and Jamison McGinnis. Their first game will be held on 9/13 at Middletown High School. The girls' captains for this year are Ariana Clifford, Amelia Sarah, Juliana Carolina, and Natalia Rollo. As of right now, the girls plan to have their first game on 9/12 against Bristol Eastern. The girls' swimming and diving captains for this year are Lucy Callender and Vanessa Machashek, and their first swim meet will be held on 9/12 at Enfield High School. The girls' volleyball captains for this year are Tamara Ibbets, Faith Emery, and Destiny Wazelinski. Their first game was last Friday, and their next one is tonight at Bristol Eastern. The football captains for this year are Shane McCormick, Joe Vasquez, and Bobby Wright. Their first game was last Thursday, and their next one will be on Friday at E.O. Smith at 6:30 p.m.
PHS A team met today to discuss the start of the school year and some potential problems to help figure out at PHS. PHS Honor Society officers have met once and plan to meet again tomorrow morning to discuss the different requirements and potential service projects for NHS members this year. And we do have a section about the changes at PHS, which were mentioned prior. So from now on, there's only one entrance, and that is the main entrance. It has worked out pretty well so far. The students seem to be pretty on board with it, and it has increased security a lot. Last year, there were 2 entrances, so there was a back entrance and a main entrance. So some students could get in like late, but now it's all locked down and squared away. The focus on attendance has definitely helped a lot. there's now a lot harsher restrictions for student policy on terms of attendance. So students are now only allowed to either come in early a study hall or either leave early a study hall. You're not allowed to double up on either, so students are kept in school for longer, and there's harsher punishment if students don't show up. So that's has been about a 20 to 30 student improvement per day, which is quite a bit. There have been made some changes to the dress code. Hats are now allowed. Due to still being able to identify students, hoods aren't, but students have been definitely taking more of an advantage with that rule and are thankful for it.
I've also seen a lot of kids choosing to wear hats instead of their hoods. Like, I haven't seen them wear their hoods as much. And there has been more attention to put on students a student mindfulness, especially in regards to interactions between grades. This year's seniors are giving extra attention to helping the younger grades as well, as just daily practice of kindness, which was a core focus on SEL lessons, except now it has been put into daily practice.
Encouragement of getting involved has also increased. The weekly newsletter sent out actively encourages students of all grades to get involved with after-school activities and sports, as well as student government activities. There has been a spike in involvement across all sports, so sports teams have generally gotten bigger throughout this year. And there's been increased interest for after-school clubs as well and student government. So there's more students running for student office at all grades. There has been a higher interest in NHS, which has been led to some demand for the GPA requirement to being lowered, but we're still reviewing that. And there's been an increased interest for robotics due to students being carried over from the middle school. The changes at PHS have overall been received pretty well, and we look forward to having a great school year. That concludes the student perspective.
Thank you very much. Now we were going to move on to the council liaisons report. Kathy Puglisi, do you have anything for us this evening? Sure.
Good evening, everybody. Kathy Puglisi, 50 West Broad Street. Welcome back. I know that the board was on hiatus for the summer. However, there was a lot of work that took place during that time. So, but welcome back to your regular schedule. The town council has a summer schedule that we've been observing. We've been meeting once a month through the month of September. Our next meeting will be next Monday. So I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of what we've talked about and had to take care of during the month of August. There's a variety of things that the council had looked at, and just for your information. The council has recently been looking at getting some new fencing and gates at our Robertson Airport, and we looked into getting a grant from the FAA to help us accomplish that task. Due to the size of the project and cost, we had to get a special survey done, and a decision was made to proceed with that phase of the project with a partial installation of the fencing. The town prepared specs and ran a procurement bid process in order to get some numbers for that, and the low bid was $439,875 from Eagle Fence. We went in and approved that. The fencing had been needing repair and replacement for some time, and the airport is an asset that we are, first of all, very proud of, and we need to keep that whole space as secure and as in good shape as we can. So we did go ahead and approve the purchase of the fencing. The council also was asked to approve a new contract with the cleaning services, the cleaning company services, the municipal center, public library, recreation building, police department, fire station, water pollution control facilities. The current 5-year contract with Magic Gloves Cleaning Service expired on June 30th of 2023. So we went ahead and looked at a new contract with the same company. The agreement stipulates a 1.8% increase for 5 years. The total amount of the contract is $120,426. They have provided excellent service. It is a Connecticut business that is women-owned and disadvantaged business enterprise. So it has a number of different designations that we're happy to support, and they will continue on providing the service that we've come accustomed to. We also had to go ahead and approve another expenditure from our capital projects. The Buildings and Grounds Department had a roof that was over 35 years old. There's been a series of issues with that, as you can imagine, including small leaks, raised drains, blistering roof membrane, and deteriorating flashing. The Buildings and Ground Department asked to engage SR Products in Simon Roofing and Sheet Metal to complete the job. SR Simon had quoted the project at $87,720. However, we had allocated $100,000 in our capital improvement budget, so we came in somewhat under that, which is always a good thing. So that went forward. We had the council had also appointed a charter revision commission back in January to look at some specific items in our charter. The charter is similar to a constitution. It is our guide for governance in the town of Plainville, and we did have some items that needed to be updated. The commission met a number of times and they finished their work. The council accepted their report, and this charter revision recommendation has to go out to the voters, and it will be on the ballot in November for approval. So when you go out to vote, make sure you pay attention to the fact that we're asking some changes be made to our charter. They will be there. We also did a few more items regarding our purchasing ordinance that got updated. The Economic Development was contacted by CGI Communications regarding updating our community video series, which is currently on the town's website. The last contract was signed in 2019, which is normally a 3-year agreement. And we went ahead and renewed the contract with CGI with significant turnover in town leadership since the last publication. It's an ideal time to reproduce the series. Videos are scripted, taped, edited, and produced by CGI at no cost to the town. So our video will be updated on the town's website in the very near future. They're working on it right now. We also had to go ahead and purchase some trash and recycling containers. The town put into effect a trash and recycling changeover several years ago, I would say at least 10 years ago. And now our containers are almost gone. This happens, they break, they go missing. We don't know why that happens. But we had to purchase some trash and recycling containers to replenish those that we had before. The council went ahead and approved that to, what did we purchase? 144 95-gallon Navy containers for $36,638. So we have new trash and recycling containers for those that need them for new building that comes in, and we have to supply them as well. We also, and you have probably been aware of this, the town council had approved a 4-day work week, which started back in August for the town. It was actually for the Municipal Center, Recreation Department, Youth Services Department. It also included the Senior Center, and the hours would be Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 5 p.m., Thursday, 8 to 6 p.m., and Friday, they will be closed. On Friday, it was a 4-hour day, and so the reason, the thinking behind this was that the town manager, as with everybody, is trying to replace positions that are vacated. We're thinking this is maybe something that this kind of flexible work schedule would be something that would be entertaining for people. The hours are still going to be the 35 hours. However, they're spread off over a different range. We did have a little bit of pushback on the hours that were for the senior center. We had a number of folks come to us and say, please don't remove the 4 hours on Friday. The senior center is a highly utilized service area for our town. People go there for health issues, they go there for social service issues, they go there for meals, they go there for a number of things. And eliminating 4 hours on a Friday was very impactful to that community. So the council decided, after discussion with the leadership at the senior center, that they're going to reinstate the 4 hours on Friday, and their hours will not change from what they were before. They just have a different purpose in our town, and we need to honor that and recognize what the senior center does for everybody. I'm almost done. Walk through. There have been also a lot of comments recently brought to the town council regarding Paderewski Park and the activities that go on at the park, and some of our recreation folks got involved, some of our conservation folks got involved. And the council did a walkthrough in July to take a look at the park, to understand how it's being used, to understand what's used by our community, what's not used by our community, what we think would be a good way to continue providing services and still being aware of some of the changes that maybe should take place there. There was a general agreement that we're going to try and give a 3 to 6 month look at the use of the park without changing anything substantially. We are going to do some things like do some possible improvements in the park, upgrades to the signage, fixing the boat launch. I don't know if you're familiar with the boat launch, but it needs some work over there. In addition to some conservation efforts, education efforts, and promote best practices in the park. So we're not going to eliminate anything right now because it's best to just step back and take a look at it, put up some reminders of folks of the things that we expect. Use the trash can. Don't throw trash on the ground. You know, in terms of fishing, if you have a fishing line that breaks and you can get to it, pull it out of the water. Don't leave it there because animals get entangled in them. So we're going to try and educate the users of the park a little bit more, and we'll see if that does anything to help out. There will be, after we had our August discussion regarding the report from Mike Zuba of SLAM, which was an enrollment projection for the schools, the town is going to continue discussion with the schools regarding the middle school project, regarding options to the project, and getting additional and updated information regarding the cost of the project, the reimbursement rate from the state, review and update a bond analysis, which is our expert that goes out to tell us when we should go out and bond projects such as this, what the cost of borrowing the money would be. And we are going to also be talking with Rob Buden, who is, of course, our financial supervisor, and he is going to take another look at our long-term debt schedule. So in order to proceed forward, we're going to be gathering additional information. Once the information is gathered, my recommendation would be that we would sit down with the Board of Education at another open work session and talk about the data that we've collected and the information that we've gotten to this point, and continue on the discussion about the upgrades to the middle school Plainville and see where we're going to go with that. So there is a lot of work that's continuing on that front. We will be, as soon as the town council gets all of the information that they need, I will encourage the town manager and the superintendent to sit down and get on the schedule a meeting among both boards to take a group look. It would certainly be a public meeting where any interested parties, parents, anybody that would be interested in learning about how we're going to hopefully go forward with the middle school be available. So that would be the end of it. I know it was a long report, but we have a lot going. When you only meet once a month, there's a lot to take care of. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any for me. Our next meeting again is Monday, and then we will resume our regular schedule in October of 2 meetings a month. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call upon Sam, Mr. Hellerstein, if you can update us with the facilities and turf update.
So the first up are Ashley and Alicia, and Kevin, if you could tee up the slides. Ashley, do you mind coming up? And then Mike and Sandy will follow with the facilities report.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. For those who haven't met me, my name is Ashley Carl, and I'm the Director of Food and Nutrition Services here at Plainville Community Schools. And I'm very excited to announce that we have a new assistant food service director. The past year I was working alone in the department since November 4th. So I am more than excited to announce that we have Alicia DePonte. And she was previously employed as a food service director for Plymouth Public Schools, where she oversaw the school meal program, including breakfast and lunch. She worked in child nutrition for the past 4 years and has been working in food service for 23 years. She brings a tremendous amount of passion for school nutrition and is excited to work with the school nutrition team and all the Plainville Community Schools Board of Ed members, administration, and staff. She's a tremendous asset to the Food and Nutrition Services Department, and we're so thrilled to have her. So I'd like us all to welcome her for just a minute. I'm so excited to have her. I know she's been here the past week, and it's been fabulous. All right, so everyone who knows me knows that I can go on forever and talk. So I promise you this update will be very quick and short. I just have a couple updates that's going on in food and nutrition and some really exciting stuff that's going on with our kids. So for the first time in the past 3.5 years, we have now transitioned back to paid meals. So for this school year, what happened was the Connecticut State Department of Education allocated money so that breakfast will still be at no charge for all students, which is amazing. So all of our kids in all 5 schools will receive breakfast free of charge. And as a registered dietitian, I believe it's incredibly important that students start their day with having a healthy, nutritious breakfast. They get fruit, juice, and then protein and grain. So, and I think it's, as a mom myself, and as someone who I think it's an incredible burden has been lifted for students who can come to school. They don't have to worry about, because getting out of the house is overwhelming sometimes. So they can come to school and have a meal, and we're so incredibly happy and thankful for that. And then my second update, which I think is super exciting, is Plainville Community Schools Food and Nutrition has partnered with Put Local on Your Tray. So last year we did an event at Wheeler Elementary School where we did a kale taste test. And despite what many people think, kids actually did like the kale. And one of these things that we partnered also over the summer, we partnered with them and did a dip into summer. So we focused 3 days, and we had I think we did grape tomatoes with a basil dip, cucumbers with a dill dip, and then zucchini zoodles. And so we had a summer meal site at Norton Park, and the students, there was a lot of students that participated throughout the day. So we had Parks and Rec, we had about 30 kids eating from there each day, and the kids love the taste tests. So our staff made the dips, and then we purchased the produce from local farms here grown in Connecticut, and the kids absolutely loved it. So one of the things that we're going to do this year now is we're going to, over the next couple of weeks, at our open houses, we are going to highlight what we're going to be doing throughout the school year. So we are ordering produce from Carabin Farms, and then our staff will be making different dips. And we want to make our families really aware of the high quality, nutritious meals and produce that's being offered to their children. And one thing I also want to highlight for summer that I forgot about was the Connecticut State Department of Education actually came out to our site. And I always warn my staff that can happen. They can show up in the summer at any point in time. And I will tell you, they did tell us that we have a very fun, outgoing, and enthusiastic team, and one of the most enthusiastic summer meal sites. But with that, it also wouldn't have been possible without all our partners. Jill and Kelly from Adult Ed were tremendous in working with us. I mean, they got in a pea and carrot costume. They got kids super engaged in summer meals. It was phenomenal. I couldn't have asked for a better day when they showed up. And also I want to thank our dedicated school nutrition staff, because without them, all of this wouldn't be possible. And then I also want to thank, the support from the Board of Education, all our administrators, our staff. We are just so lucky that we have such a support from everyone to be able to offer local produce. It's not a small undertaking. It's a lot of work, and we're going into this big deep dive. But without all the support from you guys, it wouldn't be possible. So I'd like to thank all of you as well. And I don't know if anybody has any questions about anything we're doing.
We do have the tomato
Oh, yes, I forgot. So we did order grape tomatoes, and we prepped them tonight. And then we also made a basil dip that we made for the kids this summer, and we brought samples so you guys can try it. It was really, really good, and it was the highlight of all the kids at the summer meal site. Some of the students go here, and they asked us to put it on the deli. So they want like us to do a basil mayo for the sandwiches. But you guys are more than welcome to try. I can have Alicia pass it around, or I can leave it. Yep, that would be awesome. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, and from Carabin Farms. And so while Alicia's passing that out, let me welcome up Mike and Sandy, who will give you some of the details on why they were recognized as heroes tonight.
Are they both the same?
Before Mike and Sandy begin their presentation, Ashley, it's no wonder that the State Department said we've got the most fun and passionate team. Look who's leading the team, right? We couldn't, if you don't know Ashley, we couldn't be more fortunate to have such a knowledgeable, passionate person in that role who's willing to be innovative and try new and creative things. I happened to be at Norton Park also with both Mr. Lewandowski and Sam, and it was really a hit this summer. So again, thank you for all your hard work, and it's great to have Alicia on board as well. You both make a tremendous team, so thank you. Okay, we'll turn it over now to our Plainville Community Schools All-Stars, Mike and Sandy, to talk briefly about some of the projects that were accomplished this summer.
Sure. We just have a few slides here to talk about. The first one, first I'd like to say Sandy and I are very thankful for and honored to be the PCS All-Stars. I think it's pretty amazing. But I have to say that the true everyday heroes of the facilities department are our custodians and our maintainers. Here's some pictures of them doing what they do best, and that's helping us out. Much of what is done during the summer is facilities maintenance on HVAC, plumbing, electrical, a lot of preventative maintenance on those items, and of course the deep cleaning that our custodians do of our schools. Our maintainers and custodians are the people who truly make our building a safe, clean, and welcoming place for our students and staff, especially at the beginning of the school year. Everything is clean and well presented. And you'll be hearing about the branding project later, but they have done a great deal to help with hanging banners and signs, as you can see here. Mike Dixon in the middle there looking happy to hang that sign. Next slide. One of the big projects this summer was the AC for the middle school gym. The middle school gym never had air conditioning, and there were too many hot days in the beginning of the school year, as we can see this year. It worked out to have air conditioning put in this year especially. Students were tired and hot after gym class, especially if they'd have to go to their next class and have to learn and do things like that. It's hard to do that when you're hot and tired. So we teamed up with Swan HVAC out of Newington and McKinney Mechanical to complete the install. As you can see there's a very large crane bringing it onto the roof of the gym. Next slide. Continuing with the HVAC vein here, we have a new chiller for Toffelon School. Toffelon's old chiller had reached the end of its useful life. There were inconsistent temperatures, and it made for less than comfortable conditions throughout the school. One area would be 75, the other would be 70 or 68, so it was very inconsistent. The old chiller was loud and prompted many complaints from a neighbor up the hill, and it was true, it did run very loud as it aged. And now our new chiller runs more efficiently and will run less, which will ultimately save us money. Next, we have the Toffelon stairwell painting. The old stairs, the old railings were this pink-orange color. They were old and dirty and hard to clean. So we felt, Sandy felt it was best to have that area redone. So you can see there's new paint on the walls there. That's a Navajo white, and we used the Plainville blue for the railings there. And it really did spruce it up a bit in that area. Plainville High School pool deck drain repair. The pool deck drains were in bad shape. There was, they had deteriorated to the point where water was pooling, it wasn't draining. That was a hazard in and of itself. Jagged tiles and raised drain covers pose an injury risk to staff and students. I had hired Phoenician Home Improvement from right here in Plainville. They're right on Whiting Street, and I thought they did a great job. It's even cleaned up better than that now. You can see the blue, Plainville blue tiles around the new drains there, and that goes around the entire pool, kind of spruces it up, but it's also, I have to say, they work. So that's a big difference there. Again, at the high school, we had brick restoration being done. This was a project that was started by my predecessor and finished by me. The older section of Plainville High School was in need of major brick restoration. That's the 1950s section. There was considerable mortar deterioration and water infiltration, and close to 1,000 bricks were completely replaced during this. And you won't be able to tell if you go around, and this I like to attribute to the workmanship that the company did. You won't be able to tell what bricks were replaced. You could in some spots, but it really does blend in well, and they really did closely match that. It's a slight safety upgrade during the summer at Toffelon. We had to install these magnetic door holders in all of the stairwells, and W&M Fire Protection installed those. They're our fire and safety company that we use for all of the schools. And so that's just a little bit of more of a heightened safety for our students. What it does is prevent, it basically funnels students down the stairs and out the exits at the end of the stairwells, rather than having them go back into the first floor or the second floor. We've also done some work on future projects. There's going to be a new pre-K playground at Toffelon. Work will begin in mid-October. The work will also be done by Compan, and they also did work at Linden and Wheeler. So now all three elementary schools are going to have very similar playscapes, so they'll be equal in that regard. And it will be located in the field next to the school and completely fenced in for safety purposes. You can see some artist renderings here of the playscapes. And then, yep, the Plainville High School boiler replacement has been a long time coming. Hopefully that will be happening in the spring and summer of 2024. The old boilers, which you can see on the left there, they're massive. They're at the end of their useful life, and they're no longer as efficient as they should be. Boiler project will go out to bid within the next few weeks. They're just finishing that up now, the bid package. And the specs were created with the help of an engineering firm, so we would be sure to spell out exactly what the school needs in that bid package, and that way every bid that comes in will have the same equipment in it being bid on. So it's more of an apples to apples comparison. And as you can see here, we've been busy in all the seasons. In the fall, you can see those are some of the projects that we worked on. We had some small things like a new bike rack at Plainville High School, or blacktop resurfacing at Linden and Toffelon. I had the courtyard at Linden spruced up with new mulch, some tree trimming. And you can see spring and summer, there'll be more things coming. So yeah, that's just a bit of what we've been doing and what we are going to do in the future. So I hope you've noticed many of the improvements and beautification projects we have completed in our schools. Going forward, we will not have ESSER to fall back on for some of these projects, so we'll need to be even more creative in how we budget for projects like you've seen. But we look forward to many more projects and challenges in the future. And we look forward to hearing about how the middle school project will pan out, as that is a special concern for us in the facilities department. That's it. Thank you.
Questions for
Thank
Mike
you.
or Sandy before we let them get away? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Sandy.
I just want to say. Thank you. I just want to say again what tremendous work Mike and Sandy have done with our custodial and maintenance team. The focus of the summer was on the inside of the buildings, but we also know the outside of the buildings is tremendously important because that's what people see when they pull up to the building. So I hope that you've noticed. If not, please notice how the outside of the buildings look. Truckloads of weeds were taken away, I know, at several of the buildings. With the rain this summer, those weeds really grew, and I know a lot of effort was put into that. It's very hard in midsummer. You see the weeds growing, but the focus is really getting the inside of the building done, and then right before school opens, we focus on the outside of the building. So a lot of work happened there. So thanks to both of you. Thank you to Sam for supporting that effort as well, and to all of our custodial and maintenance staff also. Thank you both for being here tonight.
So just to continue with the report, actually, I'd be remiss not to also mention our technology department, two of whom are up top. And during the summer, they're incredibly busy as well. You know, they work hand in hand with facilities on some projects. But when I walk into the technology room, sometimes it looks like a Best Buy. There's so many computers, and you know, we kind of joke that they're responsible for anything that plugs into a wall. But I think in some ways they're responsible for anything that plugs into a wall. And there's an awful lot of work. You guys approved the rotational plan as part of the capital plan every year, and there's a lot of work making that rotational plan happen. They also have to repair all the Chromebooks over the summer before they can go back to students. So they're pretty full out all summer long. So hats off to our technology department as well. My slides are like eye charts. Sorry, I apologize in advance, but I'll try to do my best, even though the font's small. This is the turf fund report, and we do this twice a year just to keep it visible. It was before my time. My understanding is when the turf fund was put in, there was a lot of concern about what will happen when that field wears out. And so a fund was started, and the idea was over time we would contribute to the fund. The replacement cost of the turf field is expected to be somewhere around $700,000. So that's a lot of money, and the useful life of that field is coming to its end. So the fact that we have this turf fund and we're continuing to grow the turf fund is very important. The fund balance is up to $223,000, in large part thanks to this board. The past 3 years, this board has contributed $50,000 of realized savings to put into this fund. And that's the top section of the report. You can see the years going across the top. The most recent year is to the right. So this current close in June, we put another $50,000 into the turf fund. The next section down the middle of third of this report is other money that goes into the turf fund, and that comes from folks, the partner groups who use the turf field. The soccer club, the football club, baseball and softball, people who use the turf field. And at the time the field was put in, there was an agreement that they would pay a certain amount per player every year. We suspended that during COVID because nobody was using the turf field, but that's starting up now again. We'll be meeting with the partners like we do every fall, either at the end of September or early October, and we'll talk to them about their contribution to the turf fund as well as their use of the field. And then just the bottom third of this just shows money coming out of the turf fund, how it's being used. And in recent years, the use of funds has been to keep that turf field as good of a condition as possible. So we do a deep cleaning each summer, and I'm pleased to report that the fields are in very good shape. Even though they're coming to the end of their useful life, we expect to get years still out of our turf fields. We list them on our capital request, but 5 years out, and so as long as we continue to keep the fields in good shape, we can continue to list them 5 years out and hopefully defer that $700,000 expense for years to come. So that's the turf report. Kevin?
Sam, I do have one question.
Sure.
In the past, I think the Backers Club did have a process where they were selling ads on the fences, and that was, I think, also suspended during COVID.
Yeah.
Are there plans to reinstitute that? Because that did, if we can look at that middle years,
Right.
that did provide some additional funds for, just support that, because
Right. I know the backers have been talking about it. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but somebody was very enthusiastic about getting that up and going again. And so we'll find out more about that when we meet at the end of September and October, and I can update you at a later date. I know they were enthusiastic about getting that going
Yeah.
again, but I don't have further details.
thank you.
Yep.
Sam, I have a quick question too, please. And I know you can't give a guaranteed date, but when we got the field, how often was it estimated that we were to spend $700,000?
I believe it had a 10-year life. 12-year life. And so we're just getting to that point now. I think it's been almost that amount of time. But, that's because we've been taking such good care of our field, we believe it'll last much
Okay,
longer than that.
very good, thank you.
So if you'll indulge me again with further eye tests, I'm just going to go through a report on the end of the fiscal year of 2023 that we're in the process of closing out now. It hasn't been audited yet, but in advance of that, I'm still going to give you a report for the end of the year. So just real quick about the process, what you see in front of you, the chart on the upper right side of this slide is what you get in your board packet every month. There are 70 lines on that. We call them objects. Each line's an object. And just how that works, I highlighted the first digit of the objects. The first digit that starts with 1 are salary accounts, and so they all roll into salaries. Just want to make sure you understand how it works. The digits that start with 2 are benefits, and so there's 8 sections in that report. The summary that you see at the bottom part of this slide is the summary of those 70 object accounts by those first digits in the descriptions that you see there. Just to focus you all the way to the right side of that chart, we're ending right now, before audit, we're ending the fiscal year with a balance of $188,115, a little bit higher than we thought it was going to be earlier, but as we went through the close process, some additional entries were made, and we found some more revenues from the choice program that we thought, and some other things that added to the balance, and so we're at $188,115. The big variances are related to special services and facilities, and I'm going to just talk about that in a second, Kevin. Just a little bit more on how it works. The salaries in our budget reflect what you approved during the budget process, so we're very good at budgeting position by position. And if we change from that, we change from that frequently, but that's because of people leaving and people being hired into the same positions. But if we change the number of positions, the board affirms it. And for example, at a meeting over the summer, Superintendent Case talked to you about a kindergarten teacher that was needed for enrollment purposes. And so that's an example of how a change might happen to the salary account. But you would know of all the changes in the number of positions as they're happening. The non-personnel accounts in our budget are all assigned to administrators, and administrators are not allowed to overrun their budget. So if they have an unexpected expense in one line, they're expected to cover it with another line. They can do transfers from one to another, and so that's how we manage the non-personnel accounts. However, because of COVID and ESSER and learning loss and the situations that we've been facing over the past few years, we've been managing technology, facilities, and special ed recovery kind of overall. If we had them transferring from one account to another as things were happening, very, very fast last spring, they would be spending lots of time transferring. So we just made sure overall we were managing technology, facilities, and special service recovery. And so the chart just shows you that the difference in our salaries, just that you saw in the previous chart, was about $1,600. Benefits was favorable by $157,000 due to a lot of different differences in those salaries. Even though it's on budget overall, there's a lot of variation within salaries, and benefits goes hand in hand with salaries. Facilities, the non-personnel part of facilities was favorable about $209,000. Technology, unfavorable $160,000, and everything else $15,000. Just a quick snapshot. Kevin, if you can go to the next slide. This is just special services, those 8 lines, and you can see that special services overran the salary account and overran professional services account. And that was planned almost from the beginning of the year. The positions were very hard to find. We knew that we were having special ed recovery and student recovery issues, and we knew that positions were hard to find. So they outsourced more positions than we expected. There's also some ESSER impact there. There's additional activities that were funded by ESSER. And then there's savings on row 5. In part, that's in large part due to transportation savings. DACA was unable to cover a number of our special ed routes. They did a wonderful job covering all of our school to home routes, but the special ed routes, they just couldn't accommodate because of driver shortages. So they had to scramble and look elsewhere and hire other services, which ended up saving money, but it was also disruptive. Making sure we got kids on buses at the beginning of the year was very disruptive. And you know, that's a snapshot of special education overall, negative by $114,000. And we talked to you about special education tuition throughout the course of the year. So we have talked to you a little bit about the variance that we expected in special education. Kevin, next slide, please. And then facilities considerations. You know, you heard a lot about the projects that we have underway in facilities, but facilities was favorable to budget by over $200,000, and that was helped by the weather. A lot of that was utilities, and we had a very warm winter. We had cool fall and spring, and that helped our facilities budget. The other thing I want to mention while we're talking about facilities is the amount of facilities work, and you saw, you got a taste of that. I think what we learned during the course of doing all those projects is doing that many projects is very taxing to our staff. We're not project managers. You know, we're staffed to be able to maintain our buildings on an ongoing basis, and to do all the things that they've been doing, you know, hats off to them, and thank you guys. On an ongoing basis, I don't think that's sustainable. And I bring it up because of the middle school. You know, one of the options of the middle school is to do a maintenance plan and continue to and do some projects as we go. And if we really were going to seriously consider that, we would have to consider how we would do that, because we're just not staffed to be able to do that. So I just wanted to mention that as part of the year-end financial report. Next slide, Kevin. So, and then while I'm on the topic of the middle school, and Kathy covered some of this, and so it's a little redundant, but we've been working very closely with the town manager and assistant town manager. And so we're still targeting a September meeting, as Kathy mentioned. We expect an updated cost estimate from CSG. You'll remember that the previous cost estimate was over 2 years ago, and it was $58 million. And so we're waiting this week. We should receive an updated cost estimate. We'll see what the difference is between that $58 million from 2 years ago and what that would cost to do that same plan now. And then Kathy also talked about updating the bonding and what would be the impact of that. And with that information, the plan would be to get back together as a joint meeting, hopefully later this month or as soon as possible, as soon as we have the information together. And just potential, if we did go with a Renovate Like New project, we were just kicking around dates with the town manager, and a potential schedule could look like what you see at the bottom of this slide. Public hearing in November, referendum in February of '24, and then working with legislators February through June of '24 to see if we could impact priority list considerations and some of the waivers, space waivers that you heard about during the course of the discussion. Working toward the potential for a June '24 application should the joint group and the residents at referendum decide to go that direction. And I think that might, Kevin, do I have anything else? Or is that, okay, so this is just, earlier in my report, I talked about the favorable variance at the end of the year being $188,115. You see that at the bottom of this schedule, and then what that balance was in comparative years, the past several years, are listed above that. And so you can see we've had some sizable variances over the course of the years, especially during COVID. During COVID, we gave back over almost $1 million to to the general fund in fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21. Last year was $135,000, and this year preliminarily $188,000. And so you all know that the challenge ahead now, with ESSER going away, is now taking all those activities and the recovery that have been put in place, that have been funded by ESSER, and now figuring out how to transition from that back to the way we used to operate without having that funding. But I bring it up now because there's the potential that we would possibly go back to the council during budget season, and especially for capital. If there's capital needs, all the things that Mike and Sandy were talking about, possibly asking if we could have a little bit more in our capital budget to make up for some of what we've given back over the years. So just to put that on the table as well. And that's about all I have for you tonight. Questions, thoughts?
Yes, Sam, I do. As a piggyback to Rachel's question, for better understanding, you had mentioned that we're hoping to get an additional 5 years on the turf project? The
Turf field
turf
before it has to
field?
be replaced.
Based on what you just showed us, and what I'm understanding, which is that it's going to be in the range, as of today, approximately $700,000. But we've only got 223 in there now. So is there going to be something planned or thought about in anticipation of what we have to plan for in 5 years? Because it seems to me like we're quite a bit short for what we need to do. I'm just trying to understand, to make sure that, especially since the ESSER funds are going away and we have to think about, things coming up.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Let me just start by clarifying that there are different pockets of money that we plan for. And so the Board of Ed budget is what I've been reporting on tonight. And that's how the Board of Ed funds its operations. That's how we buy pencils, supplies, software, how we pay teachers. It's all out of the Board of Ed budget. Capital items do not come out of the Board of Ed budget. They come out of a shared pool of money with the town. And so when Kathy talked about the roof for the facilities building, probably not saying that right, building and grounds, pardon?
The recreation building, is that what you're talking
Yeah, the new roof that you talked about.
about?
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought it was the facilities group. Okay, but that new roof comes out of this capital pool of money, this capital fund, as well as the brick work that Mike was reporting on, the chiller at Toflon, all those major projects come out of this capital fund and have to be approved by the town. So the turf fund, when it comes time, will also be paid for out of the capital fund. The turf fund will supplement that and reduce the amount of money that's needed to be paid for out of capital. And so that's why we're trying to build up the turf fund.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, Sam, too, in the past, when we went out with that original project for the turf field, which actually got added to with the softball, added on back onto that, there was also some other grant funding that did help fund that initial investment into the turf field. So I think that also would be a potential that would be closely to that we would have to be looking at. And a lot of that did come from the state that helped fund that initial, and also provide the funding to have the softball field also put in. And I think because we are really expending tremendous effort maintaining that field, a lot of people don't really put their effort into keeping that field up and really policing that we're not having the incorrect type of spikes worn on that field, and also anytime we get out and have any public event on that field, flats have to be worn. And so all of that, I think, is extending the life of that particular investment.
Thank you, Foster. Is there something else?
I don't think so.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank
you.
you. Next, we're going to have the Assistant Superintendent's report. Mr. Lewandowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do want to say, well, first of all, just congratulations to everyone who was recognized. Lori, congratulations for your service. Mike and Sandy, congratulations on the PCS All-Star. I'm thinking it's going to be hard to pick another PCS All-Star if they think they have to do a presentation after they win. So we may have to think about that. But thank you for the presentation. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you can just go to the next slide. Yep. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Kev. Thanks. All right, perfect. So I just have a few things I'm going to report on, and then I'm going to actually shift over and give the microphone, well, the podium to Lynn Davis. But I wanted to start what I was doing with the vision statement of the district. So we've gone through a process of strategic planning, and we created a new strategic plan with the community's input, but there were certain areas that we kept close to the same. The vision statement is one of those areas we didn't change because we felt like it embodied what we want in Plainville. And I'm sure that looks very familiar to everyone, especially the Inspire, Prepare, and Engage. So I just wanted to start with that because every meeting, and you're going to see some of the meetings that we conducted to start the school year, to kind of set the tone for the school year. And we always start with the vision statement, and then we go into our theories of action. So if you go to the next slide, this is one of our theories of action. We have two, but this one is more pertinent to the slides I'm going to share. I'm not going to read that, but in order to achieve our vision, we have our theories of action which drive our work and ensure that our students and staff have the support needed to be successful. And then if you go to the next slide, and I thought this was very interesting, and I put look familiar on the top because the State Board of Education just came out with their comprehensive plan. It's still in draft form at the end of August, but these were the strategic priorities that they identified for the state. And if you read those bullets, for the last several years, these are the areas that Plainville has been focusing on and working towards. So we're on the right path, and we've been doing a lot of the things that the district is coming around to setting initiatives for. So I think we should be very proud of the work that we've been doing in these areas because we were ahead of the curve with a lot of our strategies and initiatives. Go to the next slide. That looks nothing like me. So we started with our new teacher orientation this year, and it was a pretty busy hiring summer for us. We have a lot of talented staff members that we've hired, but we start the year with a new teacher orientation for 2 days. And you can see it was August 21st and 22nd. And this is a chance for us to have all of our newly hired teachers, and when I say newly hired, it spans. We have brand new teachers who are new to the profession, and we have veterans that have been there for 30 years that we hire. So it's a nice group of beginning teachers, veteran teachers, and from all different content areas, levels. So it's a good group, and we have great conversations. But if you look at those bullet points, that's pretty much what we cover with our new staff so that they learn how we do things in Plainville. And I'd like to thank Tawana Graham-Douglas for her work in the organizational planning of these sessions. And then all the central office administrators, because each of those bullets is an expertise for one of our central office administrators who presents to the new staff. I'm very excited with this new group of staff members as they were quite impressive through this whole orientation process, and we had great conversations with them when we were presenting all these different areas. Next slide. And then after those, so we had a long week of planning and meetings. So we had the 2 teacher orientation meetings, which were extremely important to set the tone for our new staff. But then we have our leadership summits, which consist of 3 meetings. One is with our administrative team. So we did half a day with our whole administrator council, and then the second half with more building leadership and central office instructional leaders. So this prepares us for the school year. This sets the tone for what we're going to do for our instructional goals, and we're building capacity of our leaders through this work and setting our district improvement goals. That last bullet, that targeted strategies for improving school climate and culture, this is something we took on last year and did a lot of work towards and set the tone so that we can start off this year with hopefully some great initiatives and strategies in place that will improve everything from what you heard actually Val talk about with attendance, but also behavior, our expectations for students on a daily basis, and then our instructional expectations for our staff and students. And it's been a great start to the year. And that leads us to some celebrations, which is this is always nice to talk about because you know, with all the hard work we've doing, we're really starting to get recognized for this work. So Plainville High School was recognized recently as the U.S. News and World Report Best High School, and that's one of the top 30% nationally for all high schools. So it's a great honor for the high school. It really proves and shows all the hard work that they've been putting in for the last few years. So we'll have a plaque as you walk in. I don't know where we're going to put it yet. That'll have a U.S. News and World Report Best High School, national ranked, Plainville High School. And then we have one of the badges, an electronic badge that we'll have on emails on our website that will signify that they were a national best high school. So that's great for the high school. If you drop to the third bullet, that's another high school initiative that they are receiving recognition for. For those of you who have kids like me who have gone off to college recently, we know what the FAFSA is. It's a very comprehensive financial aid package that parents have to fill out. And unfortunately, a lot of parents do not know about it and don't know how to fill it out. So the guidance counselors applied for a grant with the state. They got the grant and were able to, with that grant, put in a lot of strategies to bring in families, get translators for families, bring in university and college staff to help families with filling out the FAFSA, which is the free application for financial student aid, for federal student aid. And it's important because if we don't do this, our kids can't get money. So even if they don't think they're going to go to college, we want them to fill this out so that they have the potential to get money to go to college. So we were in the top 20% of schools in Connecticut with our completion rate, and that was a big improvement from the year before. So we earned our goal that we have with the state. So again, the counselors will be recognized by the State Department of Education on September 15th, this Friday. And they also earned another grant because of that work so that we can do this again this coming school year and see if we can improve that even more. So again, another kudos to the high school staff for all the work they're doing for our students. That second bullet, showcasing our work, we have a few state forums and conferences coming up where we were accepted to present for certain areas. One is elementary literacy, another is equitable student opportunities, and then the third one is support for our English learners. The literacy and equity for student opportunities, those two are what's called the Performance Matters Forum. It's a big, large state conference that is held in mid-October. So we'll have two separate presentations going on during that conference. And then the English Language Learner Conference is at Sacred Heart University, and I believe the end of October. And we presented last year. It was Lily Corniel and Christina Kiley. They presented together, and I believe they both submitted another proposal, and we are anticipating that will be accepted as well, and they'll do it again in late October. So again, just sharing with the state all the great work that's happening here, and it's an honor to be chosen to do this through the many applications that they get. That last one, I'm just going to touch upon it because I'll be doing the whole data report, I think, at the next board meeting. But if you look at our results, and most of the results are in now, our standardized tests improved in all areas except one content area and in one grade level for student growth. And that is the opposite trend that the state is seeing right now. The state dropped in almost every single indicator for student growth. So when we're talking about student growth, we're not talking about performance. We actually increased in performance as well in many areas. But for student growth, every student has a growth target for the standardized tests. And they want to see that student achieve that growth target. So for us to improve and increase in practically every single area in every grade, that's an incredible achievement. It just, again, speaks to the amount of targeted instruction that we've been providing over the last couple of years. And it's nice to see us starting to bounce back after the COVID years, because, as I said, the state is still seeing some slides from COVID. And that brings us to one of our last awards that I wanted to save for last because it's an international award that we won. And this is connected to our college and career pathway work. So I'm going to have Lynn Davis come up, and she's going to talk about these two slides because she was absolutely instrumental in this work in particular with our college and career pathways.
All righty. Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
And thank you, everyone. Yes, we are extremely excited about this Telly Award. Just a little background on that. As part of our Career Pathways expansion of marketing. We want to market more to families and students to get them aware of and involved in the many career pathways, opportunities, and experiences that we have in the district. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the Career Pathways Alumni poster series. So you've seen the gallery downstairs. We have one now up in the rotunda at the middle school, and that was a great way to connect the messaging that we wanted to put out around career pathways and the pathways that people take to our alumni. And we thought that hearing that voice and seeing that voice through the posters was a great connection. We wanted to take that a step further, and we thought, wow, what if we can actually hear their voices, hear their stories, and gather a collection of career pathways alumni-focused videos. So Sue Bradley, my partner in crime and my colleague that I work closely with on all things career pathway related, got together and we were able to work with Mazzarella Media. And if you don't know Mazzarella Media, they're a very dynamic, professional, wonderful group of professionals who work on multimedia. And they were able to help us put together this Career Pathways video series featuring our alumni. We thought that the biggest challenge would be to find 16 alumni willing to come in front of a video and actually share their stories, but it was just the opposite. We know that everybody bleeds blue and our Blue Devils are extremely supportive, so that wasn't an issue at all. And very quickly we were able to pull together 16 alumni willing to participate and share their stories reflecting their pathway to the 16 national career clusters that they're in currently. The part that excited me, and I'll back up a minute, Sue and I worked with Maz Media to really kind of script out what we were looking for in these videos, and we wanted the videos to be authentic. We wanted the alumni to really share their experiences, but also to reflect on their time in Plainville schools and the curriculum or the coursework or the activities that really helped to shape the path that they were on and they continue to move on career-wise. We also wanted them to be honest and tell us the things that maybe weren't here when they were in school and things that we could learn from and add and enhance their career pathways, experiences, and exposures for our students currently and going forward. So that was kind of the script that we worked on. Going back to securing the alumni, again, it was a great group of alumni, and the thing that excited me about that was that we really had that broad scope of voice, starting with Dr. Pettit, former state representative, Dr. Bill Pettit, class of 1974, and then spanning all the way up to some very recent graduates who shared their fresh experiences being in the workplace. Pardon me, and one that really stood out for me that I was just so excited about, I couldn't believe, class of 2013, Kylie Panetta, who's a very successful news reporter down, I believe it's North or South Carolina. So we kind of informally networked to try and connect with people, and we reached out to Kylie, and we said, gee, could we maybe figure this out remotely? And she said, nope, I'm gonna come home. So she came home, she came up specifically to participate in this video project. So that's the background on it, that's the excitement around it. And again, to receive this recognition or a Telly Award for this body of work, we're just extremely proud of. And I don't typically read when I'm or try not to read when I'm at the podium, but I think it's important just to share a little bit more background on the Telly Award. So the Career Pathways Alumni Video Package was entered in the Education and Training non-broadcast category. The Telly Awards is the premier award honoring video and television across all screens. Established in 1979, the award typically receives over 12,000 entries from all 50 states and 5 continents. Entrants are judged by the Telly Award Judging Council, which includes an industry body of over 200 leading experts that feature advertising agencies, production companies, major television networks reflective of the multi-screen industry that the Telly Awards celebrate. This year was the 44th annual Telly Award program, and this year they had record entries. They had over 13,000 entries overall. So for our work to be recognized with a Telly Award was just, again, kind of the icing on the cake. The important part is getting that messaging to our students and our families, but to get this recognition was pretty nice too. So that's the Telly Award recognition. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so you can see there's Kylie on the bottom there, and some local folks. Michaela Wells, our Teacher of the Year, and PHS alum, is featured in the video. The videos are archived. If you're not familiar, they're archived on the Plainville High School website on the Career Center webpage. So you can access all 16 videos and really take a look at those if you haven't had the opportunity. They're about 2 minutes long, but they're incredibly motivational, and I think they share and really kind of build that excitement around career pathway work.
Well, that was my report. So I was going to have Lynn go right into her branding piece that we're going to go into next, unless there's any questions on any of that.
That's okay. We'll roll right into branding, but I'm going to actually pause and I'm going to invite my other partner in crime, Sandy Bouchard, to the podium with me because, and I'm going to kind of shift us a little bit here. Sandy and I worked as project managers to launch our district visual branding project. So, let me see, squeeze you in over here, Stan. So we are going to tag team this presentation for you. So again, we're very excited to come before you tonight to speak about our visual branding project here in Plainville Schools. And if I'm speaking about a project or initiative for the school district, I always like to give a little bit of context or the why. You know, what's the background on why we're working on what we do. So the district branding project began actually back in 2021 as an ESSER-funded initiative, and it was part of one of our ESSER project charters, 0130, Internal and External Building Enhancements. And that chartering system is how we track ESSER-funded projects in the district. But in terms of the why, you know, why are we focusing as a school district on visual branding? There are many reasons, and I've listed them sort of in the second bullet there, but certainly visual reinforcement of district and building level areas of focus and to communicate our guiding principles. And as Dave mentioned, we just finished up our last iteration of strategic planning for the school district. This project, visual branding, dovetailed and aligned beautifully with that work because we were able to take the outcomes and the important essential principles that came out of strategic planning and embed them in the visual branding work that we're currently rolling out and have done some of already. Additional reasons to focus on visual branding in any organization or certainly in a school district environment and community is to increase that positive messaging, improve communication, because we know it's not always verbal, it's often the feel of a building, the visual communication that we put forth in a school district community, improving climate and morale, enhancing physical building environments, and then lastly, this was sort of an aha that we figured out partway through the project, and I'll explain that in a bit, the overhaul of our former branding elements that were in place. There is a good amount of data and research that supports the value of branding in organizations, and I just pulled one quote that I thought was appropriate relative to school districts, and that is that a successful school branding strategy can build a reputation by promoting a district's values, including strong academics and access to the best facilities, while also providing inclusivity and safety for their children. So again, that hopefully gives you a little bit of context and why in terms of us focusing on this particular project. And the background, how did we actually get started with this? Actually, the high school began work under the direction of Carl Johnson, former principal, who did some sort of informal facilities, or partnering with the facilities department to do some informal updates to the visual enhancements here at the high school. And they were very well received, and we took a step back and said, you know what, this is something we need to look at kind of at a higher level and district-wide. At that point, Sandy and I were appointed project managers and worked together to create a more formalized framework for developing branding enhancement plans for each school. And just to talk about roles for a minute, so Sandy and I worked with what we call the central office branding team, and that was former Superintendent LePage, Assistant Superintendent Lewandowski, and Sandy and I. Sandy and I were then kind of the go-betweens, the liaisons, that were then charged to work with the building principals, their administrative teams, and district department heads to implement visual branding across the district, also including certainly our athletic director, Mark Fritz. So we held meetings initially with our administrators, with our principals and department heads to share some project parameters, and we asked our building administrators to develop and prioritize some elements that we would be able to incorporate within their buildings. We continue to meet with building administration regularly as branding elements are planned, designed, and implemented. And we continue, this is a very important point, to be mindful of our branding budget and seek cost-effective solutions wherever we can. Doing things like everything from researching vendors to trying to do as much as we can internally, and again, a nod to the facilities department for all of their support and doing, like a lot of the manpower part of branding was thanks to the service of the facilities department, so another shout out to them. So again, moving through this entire process, we keep cost effectiveness and efficiency top of mind. I mentioned that we gave the building principals and department heads a set of parameters that our central office branding team put together. And we shared those with them so that they could take those kind of those frameworks and those parameters and use those to develop their individual branding action plans. Those included, again, incorporating some of that key messaging for the district that came out of our strategic planning, our portrait of the graduate tenants, our collaborative, communicative, innovative, mindful, and resilient, that language that we're incorporating K-12, elementary, middle, and high school. We also asked them to consider embedding building-level positive messaging, pulling information and messaging from their school charters, their school's core values, their school colors and mascots, so personalizing some of this branding for each building, but keeping it consistent throughout the district. The makerspace, STEM, and STEAM areas, as well as cafeterias, were going to be primary areas that we would work on in terms of visual branding enhancements. And back to the makerspace, STEM, and STEAM areas, we wanted to make sure the visual elements included some key skills vocabulary, because that's important visually when students are working in spaces to make the connections with what they're seeing within the environment they're working in. We asked them to plan for items that would have longevity and permanence, again, going back to being mindful of budget. We asked them to gain input from students, faculty, staff, families, and everyone who uses the building. Stakeholder input is so important. The spaces that our students and our staff and our faculty members are in every day is important, and we needed their feedback. And then finally, we asked them to please make plans to incorporate one consistent district visual element in each building, again, to reinforce that consistency piece. So again, Sandy and I began the district branding process or project with much enthusiasm and much to learn. And so first thing we did was head over to Farmington, because we said, you know what, Farmington does a great job with branding. So we went over and we met with some folks at Farmington High School before they even were talking about their renovation. Their branding was just amazing. And we came back and discovered one very important thing, and that was consistency was key. So we kept that in the back of our mind. So we came back very excited, and I remember we connected with a vendor who specializes in school district branding, and she came out, and Sandy and I and Dave toured the high school, and we were kind of walking around with her, and she was shooting out different ideas, and we could quickly kind of said, uh-oh, you know, we think we have to pause here, because a lot of the work that's involved in branding really has to do with logoing and imaging and district colors and fonts and all that kind of minutia that goes into creating consistency, creating imaging that is appropriate for a school district environment and so forth. So we decided at that time that we needed to really put a pause on branding. And we thought, you know what, we really need to work on getting those elements in order, getting them streamlined, and getting them in a kind of an archive that we'd be able to draw upon as we continued the branding project. So we went back, our central office team, Dave, Steve, Sandy, and I, and we were able to work with the Option A Group, a Connecticut-based marketing and design firm, and they helped us to ultimately create the Plainville Community Schools Style Guide, which was such a gift to this project, and I believe to the district. It truly is our playbook and our roadmap to all things visual branding related. And there's the link to the Style Guide is there, Kevin, if you can just maybe just click into that link quick. It's archived on the district website. It's protected so that staff only can access the files, but it was very mindfully put together. It's got, and I won't get into the weeds here, but anything you'd need to know from color codes to enhanced logo imaging in various formats and so forth. So everything you need to know to be consistent with branding in an organization is encompassed within this guide. So we're very, very excited to get our ducks in order with the guide, which would then kind of guide the rest of our branding work. Thank you, Kevin. So, next slide, please. So again, very excited to get that style guide created as part of the project. And we couldn't just create a style guide and throw it up on the website and hope that people used it and hope that it stuck. We needed to be mindful, and we created a district rollout plan for that style guide to ensure that all of us working in the district were migrating to and using those branding elements. Because if you think about it, there are many hundreds of us who are here every day doing many different things, but you'd be amazed how many times branding touches the work that we do in our unique positions here, from all the things that are up. I won't read that list for you, but newsletters, everything, and presentations tonight, obviously. So we made very good headway in migrating over to the guidelines within the style guide. We continue to monitor the style guide and transition that use going forward. So we had the style guide in place. And using that together with those framework tenets that we shared with the building administrators and department heads, and incorporating the feedback that we got from building administrators and stakeholders, we created those individual branding action plans to guide our work. Again, going back to trying to keep costs down, and I think Sandy and I really stretched our skill set. We were able to learn and grow, but we became kind of designers. not being trained designers, but we were able to do a lot of the design work ourselves in-house and doing research on our own and trying to incorporate designs into the process. But there are just some elements, some of the larger projects where it was just beyond our skill set and our scope. So we were very fortunate to partner with another PHS alum, Mark Maglio, who runs 4Biz Graphics. It's a multimedia company in Plainville Farmington line. So we call Mark in to partner with him on some of the larger scale elements of branding, including like the makerspace, STEAM, and STEM branding areas. And Mark's been a great partner. So together, again, ultimately, we create concepts, design concepts, and we transition those blank spaces to consistent branded elements across the district. And that's enough of me talking. And, you know, typically when I'm up here talking about communications and community relations, I say a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's so important to have pictures, and I still believe that. But I will invite you, please, we're going to share pictures in a minute, just very briefly. We'll run through those for you. But when you're walking through the buildings this year, I just ask that you please look at the buildings through the lens of the visual branding project and the initiative, and just kind of take a look at the elements that have been implemented in each of the 5 buildings, and share your feedback with us. We'd love to hear what you think about that. So without further ado, we're just going to run you through a few visuals here. And we'll start with district branding. You can see some of the district branding elements that we've implemented to date. The photo screen here that we used for the board meeting is wonderful. It includes that updated Inspire, Prepare, Engage language, the updated logoing, and these screens are nice and portable. So we use them at convocation, and it just makes for a nice backdrop, again, to create a community feel and just that more professional look when we're doing any kind of media. The simple things like creating or changing over our letterhead is something all of us needed to do. That third photo on the top is that consistent district element that we talked about, that we wanted to have in a very visible place within each of the 5 schools. So as you enter the 5 schools, you'll see that element within the entryways in some place. But it's a nice, visual element, kind of depicting that district logo in the Inspire, Prepare, Engage wording. We were able to also create some external wayfinding signage for some of our departments, adult education, curriculum, our special services department. So it was nice to get those signs up for folks to find those departments, certainly, and then also to have them branded and consistent. The photos on the bottom show some of the other uses within some of the departments within the district. Again, facilities, just very cost effectively being able to add the district logo to their fleet of vehicles. And just, again, it creates more of that community feel, team feel, that we're all part of one school district. The middle photographs show, again, a shout out to Ashley. She did a great job with breakfast at convocation, to the point where she even branded our breakfast bowls with the new district logo. So again, just creating that feel of inclusion, that district spirit, that community feeling. The security department, and the food services department also incorporated the new branding in their uniforms. So again, it builds team, it builds community, and it builds just that positive imaging within a department. And then the final picture on the lower right, again, I know that you know that we're doing expanded marketing relative to career pathways, but we also want you to know that when we're thinking about these project initiatives where we do additional marketing, we're always being mindful of trying to align that marketing for specific initiatives to our district branding and marketing. So you'll see over that display in the hallway out here in the high school of the Alumni Pathways posters, we have that branded banner with the new enhanced high school logo, the true Plainville blue that's been referenced several times. And it just, again, it just aligns nicely, it's consistent throughout the district, and it just creates for a better look and feel.
Okay, one of the first things that we did do was the exterior branding here at the high school, labeling the doors, putting wayfinding signs so traffic flowed easier, people knew where they were going. We're very proud of the exterior lit sign up there. Also, I think Dave came up with the idea of the banners up there that are at each building now. That was you, right? Oh, no, you should have taken credit for that. He's not here. The top left's picture is of the entrance by the main office. That is the perforated vinyl, so you can see out, but folks can't see in. So that is a safety feature. We're working on putting that in a few other areas as well. And I guess just labeling. bottom left is the, by the security office, and another lit sign. We're working on the stairwells and all of that, the stuff. The kids actually walked through the halls, and when they noticed it, they said, wow, very cool. They were excited about it as we were. Things in the gym, the Blue Devils over there on the pads got done.
Yeah, just a PS on this slide, and to Sandy's point, so the lower right photograph, when the Once a Blue Devil went up and the lit pitchfork at the end in that hallway, I think it was either that afternoon or the next morning, I was in the space and there was a young lady student in the same space as me. She looked up, she said, wow, that's awesome, and this is my school. And I said, there you go, this is what it's about. So it's a connection to school, the connection to the school community, students wanting to be here in Plainville. So that, some anecdotal data for you, but something that was certainly very powerful to me and really reinforced the value of the work that we're doing here.
Oh, there's one of our STEM labs. That was the first one done here at the high school. It was a big boring wall, and then we worked, that's, Mark helped us.
Yep,
with
that was with the assistance of Mark Maglio and his team. But yeah, just through the lens of kind of a before and after, because, you know, it's easy to walk in and see something updated and it looks great, but if you remember what it used to look like, and just, again, the point here is to not just create a pretty design on the wall, it's to draw attention to students to be interested in what's happening in the STEM lab and to look at the coursework and the opportunities that come out of that area of the building. So, you know, drawing them in with some visual elements that are aligned with STEM work and the things that happen in a STEM lab and the language and the word, getting them used to that. That's the point of the visual like that. And it's extremely impactful wall. If you haven't walked by it yet, we invite you to please do. You want me to go ahead on that
Yeah,
one, Sam?
go ahead.
Okay, so moving over to the middle school, again, some improvements that we made at the middle school. I'll start at the top there. You can see some happy faculty members in the STEAM hallway over at the middle school. And again, the same point was to again, draw attention, draw students, make them excited to be in that STEAM hallway with all the wonderful classes and opportunities and robotics happening down in that end of the building. At the same time, we wanted to incorporate those 5 Portrait of the Graduate tenants, and we had a big, long, ugly, old corridor. And we updated those and enhanced them with those 5 words, so you'll see them in large letters as you're coming down that hallway. It's quite nice. We were able to do some branded entryway rugs for the bus loop area where students come in, the big public areas where folks come in, really dresses up that area. And again, it instills pride in faculty, staff, and students within the building. The flags that Sandy mentioned are, yes, they're on every campus now at the schools, and those are all branded with, they're custom for the schools with their individual logos, with welcome to Toflon or the middle school or what have you, but they've all got those 5 Portrait of the Graduate words on them as well, similar to what's happened, what we have here at the high school. And then finally, that lower right picture there is that gallery we just created with the Career Pathways foam core posters. We'll add that banner to the top so it's consistent with what students see at the high school. But that's a very highly trafficked area, so a great place to showcase both the Career Pathways work and some of the visual branding element updates. And that's just, again, through the lens of before and after. You can see that long, old, boring corridor and the way those doors used to look before we gave them a little bit of love and improvement. Want me to take Lyndon, or you?
No, go ahead.
Yep, okay, so again, wonderful work at Linden. Jeff was excellent at getting a lot of feedback from parents and faculty and staff members and students on the things they were looking for within the Linden building. Another cost-effective measure that we used was using some vinyl bannering. That's something that was important to Jeff, but he wanted to use them to share those important messages that at Linden you are safe, respected, and loved. That's part of the mantra of the focus of the Linden community and instilling that message for all that are in the building. So in working with the vendor, we found out that if we made or used like a lighter weight material on those banners, we could make them double-sided. So if down the road they were defaced or something happened to them, we just simply flip them over, and for pretty much the same cost, you know, we're extending the life of these items even longer. You'll see the customized flags on the right there. Those are throughout the campus at Linden, the banners throughout the building. The rendering at the top of the stair treads, that's in the works, as well as the lower, the archway at the bottom. But speaking to the stair treads, that's kind of a nice way in a highly trafficked area to include some key messaging. And on the lower stair tread, that first set of stairs are the Portrait of the Graduate words, and those will be installed shortly. And at the top will be some of the important key character traits for Linden. So again, a nice visual for all to see in that building. And then in the lobby area, where you see the nicely painted in Plainville blue archways, that "thank you for coming to school today" was an important message that Jeff wanted to incorporate right in the entryway there. There's also some white cinder block walls in that space, and we are going to be incorporating very soon "welcome" in the top 20 languages spoken at Linden, and it's very bright and colorful, so it'll say "welcome" in all 20 languages down both sides of that entryway, which we think is just a very nice way to enter a building and set the tone for that building.
Again, the before and after of the makerspace, kids enjoying it, working on their building. It was another big project.
Yep, and then over to Teflon. Again, we did some work at Teflon. You can see the customized flags on the right. What was important at Teflon for Alicia was to get some wayfinding signage that matched what was on the building, so we were able to label the library entrance, the main entrance, and so forth. Teflon's makerspace room is the last of the 5 schools to get completed, so those 2 bottom photographs are renderings that are in progress, just some ideas, and that's kind of how we work with Mark Maglio. We'll provide feedback. He'll create some visions for us to react to, and then we tweak as we go. So stay tuned for that finished product at Teflon. Speak to Wheeler, San, or?
Wheeler, I'm going to go down to the bottom second. That was Andrew's vision. He had seen that in a video where the participate across the hanging from the ceiling. Both the long hallways have the PACK, and on both sides you can see it. He was very enthusiastic about that, and it looked great. It came out beautiful. Those were their words that they use, and the rest is the makerspace and, again, the banners.
Yep. Andrew and the Wheeler team decided to incorporate the large banners in the cafeteria, the gymnasium, and again, use their acronym and the important messaging for Wheeler through those mediums. Next step. So we've done a lot with branding, and we realize that we're slowly coming to closure on this. But there are a few kind of lingering projects that we're hoping to finish up. The Teflon Makerspace Room, some vestibule enhancements at Teflon, those Linden pieces I mentioned to you. Next, we'll be circling to the cafeterias in each building and working with food services to make some enhancements where we can in those spaces. Mark's got a few more athletic department enhancements, and then finally there'll be some updated Learning Commons signage outside the doorway in the hallway out here that sort of completes that whole renovation project within the Learning Commons space here at the high school. I think that's it.
That's it.
Just a thank you, and again, a true and heartfelt thank you for your continued support as a Board of Education, to our administration for recognizing the value of this work, allowing Sandy and I to project manage this work. We're very excited and happy to continue and see this project to fruition. So thank you. If there are any questions we can take.
No, I just want to thank you for everything you've both done. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. It looks so beautiful, and it did need that, so. Like you said, it encourages the children and they get excited. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you for doing that for our children.
I would say it's outstanding and creative and innovative, really a superb presentation, really.
Well,
Really
thank
sets
you.
us on the right track.
Thank you. We truly appreciate that.
I know that all of you know Lynn well. Lynn's been just an integral part of this district for so many years. I hear story after story about the impact that Lynn has made. Lynn, I don't know when you sleep. I honestly don't. Lynn does so much for us. We talked about Mike and Sandy. Lynn's a former Plainville Community School All-Star as well, and you can see why. So Lynn, thank you so much for all your work, for your passion, your enthusiasm. You truly are a blue devil. You bleed blue. So thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, good evening again, everybody. It's great to see you. I don't know about you, but I'm so excited I'm ready to jump out of my seat tonight after hearing from our outstanding staff and all the great work that's happening here. I'm thrilled to be here as your interim superintendent. I know we had a board meeting on July 24th, but this is my first official board meeting of the new year with you. And it is a pleasure to be here, and again, so exciting to work with such outstanding administrators and teachers and staff members. As Dave pointed out, as we opened up the school year, we've been busy over the summer hiring outstanding people. Because as you know, the Plainville Community Schools is all about the people. And we've hired 20 certified staff members at this point. 2 more certified openings we're looking to fill. One is a social worker position at Linden Street School, and another is a school psychologist position at Linden Street. And Mrs. Trzynski has been really busy recruiting. Those are shortage areas. We believe we have a candidate for our social worker position we'll be meeting with shortly, and we continue to look for a school psychologist. So the staff, the administrators have done a great job in hiring, and we still have some non-certified para-educator vacancies that we are looking to fill. The staff we've hired are the best of the best, as I've told them. The staff has to go through at least 2 interviews and then a final interview with myself and the administrator to make sure they meet the standard of the Plainville Community Schools. And all of our new hires have demonstrated over the past few weeks that they certainly are highly qualified, and they've been so far a great asset to our district. With that being said, I'd like to turn it over to our Director of Security, Rich Marquis, who's been on board with us for a year now and has done an outstanding job in that role. Rich is going to introduce to us our new security officer just recently hired. Good evening, Rich.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Tony, why don't you come on down? Yes, over the summer, we were fortunate enough to hire outstanding gentleman. A little bit of history on Mr. Anthony Spencer. He grew up in Brooklyn, New York, went to high school there, played football, got a scholarship to come play college at Central. So I know you can't tell by looking at him, but he likes football. And, you know, playing here in Connecticut, he met his wife, raised a family, did 28 years for the city of New Britain as a police officer, made it out in one piece, retired a few years back, and went to work for the Oxford School District as an armed security guard. And, you know, when I came on a year ago, speaking with the previous superintendent and current superintendents, you know, I wanted to get armed security officers at all of our schools. We were able to make that happen again this year. We found Tony. He was anxious to come here, you know, where he raised a family. We're lucky to have him, and, you know, finding the right fit, finding the right person for this job is a big challenge, and I'm very confident we got the right guy, a great guy. He coaches on his time. He coaches gymnastics. Actually stole away here while he was coaching gymnastics down the road to come to this. So I'm going to cut him loose shortly after, so he can get back to coaching. But please welcome, you know, Mr. Anthony Spencer to our security team. You want to say any thank yous?
I just want to thank the board, Mr. Case, for letting this position expand, because I think school security for our kids is the best thing we can do. We got to take care of our kids and make them safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm going to walk Tony out, let him get back to practice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Tony, and thank you, Rich. Thanks for your patience tonight, hanging in there. Officer Spencer is at both Wheeler School and Linden Street School, and that's the position you approved last June. It's my pleasure tonight, and I'm going out of order if you're following the agenda, which I'm sure you are. I'm just jumping around in the interest of time and trying to be respectful of people's time. Mrs. Vicki Trzynski is here tonight, our Director of Pupil Personnel Services, and Vicki, I thank you for your patience tonight. Once a year, it's a state law that the Director of Pupil Personnel Services gives the board a brief overview of the Special Services Performance Report. So tonight, Mrs. Trzynski will give you, again, a brief overview. You have the report in your packet. It's based upon data Vicki will talk about a few years ago. This is how the state publishes our information. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to our outstanding Director of Special Services, Vicki Trzynski. Thank you, Vicki, for being here tonight.
Great. Thank you all so much, and thanks for your patience, as I know it's getting closer to 9 o'clock, so I promise I'll be brief. As Superintendent Case described, we do have an annual performance report. It is part of both the state performance reporting and required by federal legislation. So in that first slide, what I wanted to show you, Kevin, if you could, is that there really has been some transformation in the special education accountability reporting. And so when you think about the Individuals with Education Act, it began in 1975. Reauthorized several times in 1990 and then most recently in 2004. But there have been lots of revisions and lots of real consideration for what is the purpose of special education. And so just recently we had the State Department of Education's Back to School meeting for special education directors, and they really talked about this transformation model. When I first started in special education in 1992, a lot of it was about the paperwork, how to fill out the form. And then really it talked about then how to have a better process about how kids became eligible for special education. Most recently, we started to work on accountability. Think about the accountability for Every Student Succeeds Act, and that really started to increase our accountability to say it's not just that we want kids to participate in our community schools, but we want them to actually improve their performance. And really that's where we are focused now on outcomes for students with disabilities and really talking about the effectiveness of our programs. And so, in light of all of that, there are some shifts that are being made to the annual performance report as we go forward. Next slide. So, again, as you saw, the Special Education Annual Performance Report has primarily been one about compliance. And we are looking for compliance in things like eliminating a significant discrepancy in the number of days that students are out of school suspended so that we don't have more students with disabilities suspended than typical students from a percentage-wise. Looking at disproportionate representation overall. Do we have more students of different ethnic and racial backgrounds identified? By disability, same thing. Do we have students who have more students with emotional disabilities of one particular race or ethnicity? And that has been an area in Plainville that I've talked to you before about, that this has been an area of concern for Plainville, that we have been identified in previous years as overrepresentation for students, Hispanic students with learning disabilities, for Black students with emotional disorders. And so, this is an area that we watch very carefully. We also want to make sure that we are determining eligibility for students in accordance with those established timelines. There are very specific timelines that special education must follow from the moment that parents or district requests a referral to special education. We have to make those decisions within a 45 school day timeline. We want to make sure that our IEPs are in place for students by age 3. So in the birth to 3 system, students become referred to the district at age 2.5, and they actually have to have a program in place by their 3rd birthday, and the state checks to make sure that we're compliant with those things. And then finally, for students who are in high school, we need to make sure that all students starting at age 14 now, it used to be 16, are now developing transition goals and services so that they are preparing for life after public school and be able to participate in the community to their best extent possible. Increased are also some performance measures, and so we're going to be looking more at that over the next several years, making sure that all of our special education students participate in the state testing, that we are increasing our proficiency rate, especially looking at grades 4, 8, and 11. We're also looking at our high school dropout rate especially for students with disabilities, and then the high school graduation rate with what they call a standard diploma. Some students get what we call a certificate of completion, which means that they have attended school for 4 years, but they may not have actually earned credits. And there's an increased emphasis on providing credit-bearing courses for all students with disabilities in all, no matter what their level of disability is. So those are areas that the state is really looking at. And I am excited to announce that from the 2020 to 2021 school year, the Plainville schools did meet all of those requirements. You'll see in your packet you have this annual performance report, and that most of the things here, we have met the targets identified by the state. I did want to point out that some of the indicators about performance on statewide assessments, there's lots of stars on there. And part of that is because we're a small district, there aren't enough students in that the fourth grade cohort that it would be somewhat identifiable for kids. And so that's what the stars are for. But we do get the information for each student, and we are looking closely at that. And I'm sure we'll be reporting at that when with Mr. Lewandowski's report about our performance rate. So again, this is important information, but it is historical information. And so I have a couple of other pieces of information that I do want to share with you so that we can talk about what we're working on going forward. For the 22-23 school year, Plainville identified 14.2% of its students as in need of special education services. This continues to be below the state average that has now skyrocketed to 16.7%. When I first came into special education, 10% was really where we wanted to be in. So we just continue to see that creep up in some significant ways. This is also a graph of the major disability categories of which a student can be identified. There are 14 categories total, and so the major ones are here. What you can see is for Plainville, the largest group of students identified are for other health impairment. So those are for students with things like ADHD, mental health issues, some students who are what we call high functioning autism spectrum disorder. They may not meet the educational criteria for autism, but they certainly have medical diagnoses. Learning disability is our second biggest category, but as you'll notice, it is significantly below the state average. And I really believe that that's attributed to our SRBI, or scientific research-based intervention model, so that we do a lot of great support for students who have learning difficulties before they're identified for special education. As you can see, just to go back one more around, students with autism continues to be a growing area. Students with autism spectrum disorder, both nationally, at the state, and in Plainville. That continues to be our highest growing area for students with disabilities. Next one, Kevin. So the area that I really want to kind of focus on as we move forward is that we're seeing a trend of kids with disabilities spending less time in their regular education classrooms. It's not significant, but it is enough of a trend that it's something that we really want to start to focus on, and to help our teachers to identify those strategies. What would they need, what would students with disabilities need in order to be able to be educated in the general education classroom? Because we do know that students, all students, are Plainville students first, and they may or may not have disabilities. And we know that our greatest asset is our teachers, and they are the experts on their curriculum. And so having them be in the general education environment really is the best outcome for kids with disabilities. So as I look to this school year, the special education department priorities, as you've heard several times in several different ways, attracting and retaining highly qualified certified and non-certified staff for the special education department is a major priority, and probably what I spend most of my time on. It is a high shortage area, and as you've heard, I believe we are one of 39 districts looking for a full-time school psychologist. Not being the highest paid district, the competition is real, and we had a fantastic candidate that we lost because another district was going to pay them $20,000 more than we could pay. And so it will continue to be a shortage area. We're hoping, and I've been working with my related service providers, that we can start to partner with some of the college prep programs by offering those internships, student teaching opportunities, and really kind of being able to find those best highly qualified candidates right out of college, as we know that those are the future of our department, and we want to be able to work on that. As always, we do want to increase that academic achievement for students with disabilities. Historically, as I've described board before, students with disabilities is the only subgroup that you can actually achieve out of. So when you have met the criteria and you are able to learn independently, you no longer are in that subgroup of students with disabilities. In every other group, it's based on your race or your ethnicity or your language acquisition, all those kinds of things. So we often lose the highest performing students in this category, and so you will see historically that our achievement scores are low, but that doesn't mean that we don't want all kids to achieve with high standards. Back up one more. Sorry. In order to do a lot of this work, we have been working closely with our special education teachers and talking about building that classroom teacher capacity to meet the needs of students, increasing our time with special education teachers and classroom teachers collaborating together, problem solving together, trying to kind of reduce the silos so that our professional learning community time is really around problem solving for all students. Again, important to prioritize our mental health supports. That is absolutely the biggest category of concerns. We have families and teachers and administrators coming to me on a daily basis that they're seeing kids with mental health crises and that really struggling on how to reduce those challenging behaviors in the classroom when kids are in crisis. And then finally, kind of prioritizing that transition planning for students with disabilities. As we've talked about career pathways for all students, we know that outcomes for students with disabilities, the trajectory is not as strong if we don't have a strong plan to help them know and be aware of. There were lots of times, as a special educator, that I hadn't had these explicit conversations with my kids about what the FAFSA means, how to apply for colleges, what you would need to be able to do or to know in order to go to college. And so we're really trying to bring those conversations out and clearly with students and with families. One final priority was on the very last one is our preschool. That continues to be an area that I feel is a true success for this district and something that's unique for Plainville. There are only a couple of other districts that have really that fully inclusive preschool. We are up for our NIAC reaccreditation scheduled for the fall, so we should be having the NIAC evaluators come in the next probably 6 to 8 weeks. What we've noticed is that it really does reduce the percentage of students who require those substantial special education services as they transition into kindergarten because they are spending time with their non-disabled peers. Previous model and model for many districts is that the only students in a district who are eligible for preschool are students with disabilities, and then we invite some typical peers to be role models. And in this case, we really are getting kids and families connected to one another, all students connected in one program, and so we're very proud of that as well. So those are our priorities for this year. Does anybody have any questions for me?
No, everything was very understanding, and thank you for explaining it all.
Sure.
A lot of work you're doing. Oh, Rachel has a question.
I just have a quick question,
Sure, please.
You mentioned that we missed out on a great psychologist due to the gap in pay. Was that a comparable school system for market value comparison?
It was. One of the interesting things we've noticed in our contract is a small number of disciplines. School psychology, social workers, speech pathologists are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. They have 60 credit master's degrees, where teachers have a 30 credit master's degree. And our contract, it has a master's degree scale, even though these people have a higher. So some districts allow some pieces for that. So they would go 2 lanes up in our contract, which currently is not allowed for any of those related service providers. And well, I also have had a longstanding opening for a speech pathologist for going on 3 years. Again, you saw in the budget, what I end up having to do is to contract with a private agency in order to get the time that we need, and it's just significantly more expensive, and it's because we ultimately can't compete with other districts in an extreme shortage area.
Understand, thank you. I hope we can work on that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay,
Quickly,
thank you.
Vicki, a quick question. Am I correct in the assumption that our high school dropout rate is lower than the state average?
It is.
Yeah, thank you.
For students with disabilities.
Yeah.
We've had more students, and again, part of it is because we're such a small district. 4 students, it makes a big number difference in our percentage.
But the rate would be proportionate, though.
It is proportionate. Yeah. Thank you.
Vicki, thank you so much for all of your hard work. You also work tirelessly 24/7, I know, tackling these priorities. And thank you for ensuring that all of our students meet with success every day.
I've got one quick question.
Thank you so much.
Any thoughts on reimbursements? So you had alluded to contracted services, especially for some of those shortage areas. Is it possible to work with other third-party vendors, like say like a CHMA that specializes in pediatric psychotherapy and other supports and services that are either billed through health insurance or other reimbursements, Husky or what have you?
So actually, we have partnered with several. We have a partnership with Cornerstone Counseling Services, who provide insurance-based services. We give them a space within the district, but they are insurance-based. The issue is specific to the Individuals with Education Act, and we have to provide those with State Department of Education certified people. So school social workers have one additional piece of paper than a licensed social worker. So licensed social workers can provide those services. They cannot provide it for an IEP. They have to be certified by the State Department of Ed, which makes that more challenging piece. But we have definitely partnered there. CMHA is doing the same. We are actually welcoming them in. They're going to be doing some trauma-based work with us this year. And we've had a wonderful kind of renewed partnership with CMHA.
Vicki, before you leave the podium, as a board, you'll recall that in June you approved the hiring of an administrator to fill a 10-month special education supervisor position. I'd like Mrs. Trzynski to give you the background of the person we hired. Unfortunately, she's ill tonight, otherwise she would be here. But we hired an outstanding person, and I'll let Vicki just briefly tell you about her, and you'll meet her at our next meeting in October.
Yes, I am very pleased to introduce Unique Nikki Buccini, so we call her Nikki. And she is our 10-month supervisor. She is a licensed social worker, school social worker, who has a variety of experience in suburban and urban school districts. Her most recent experience was at Wilcox Technical High School, where she was the social worker for their school program. Before going into school social work, she was a DCF worker through their investigations unit and a supervisor under DCF. And she also worked as a family relations counselor for the courts in Danbury. So she really does bring that variety of experience to us. As we look to utilize Nikki's skills, we really want to, first of all, kind of provide some additional support for me so that I can continue to do the work that needs to be done as director through our elementary schools. So she'll be spending time in our 3 elementary schools. She'll also be facilitating a clinical services professional learning community, so working with our social workers, psychologists, and school counselors to really define the multi-tiered systems of support for social emotional learning and mental health best practices, including assessments and interventions, so that we can continue to expand our best practices for all students. And so we're really excited to welcome Nikki. She's been wonderful. We have had a bit of a staff shortage, so she's been a fantastic addition to some classrooms, especially over at Linden as we start the school year. So really glad to have her.
Thank you, Vicki. Just a couple other things, briefly in the interest of time. Opening of school, all of the hard work of our administrators and teachers paid off this summer as school opened very, very smoothly. We had a wonderful opening convocation on Monday, August 28th, and I thank Lori, Foster, and Crystal for being able to attend that event. I left convocation so inspired by our dedicated staff members. Every staff member was provided with a journal that you have in front of you as a little gift for you tonight. Thanks to our wonderful Joan Calistro, who was able to order these journals at the last minute and get them embossed with the Plainville Public Schools logo on the front. The message to teachers this year from me was not only to support their students so that all students succeed, but to support one another, and especially to take care of themselves, because we know how challenging being a teacher in 2023 is. And I asked them to use this journal to help them as professionals, to journal in their journal, to write about their emotions, their thoughts, to be more mindful as we want to teach our students to be, and possibly to write down what they're grateful for, because we know that gratitude goes a long way in reducing our stress. So I share these journals with you. Please use them as you feel you would like to. The second message to the teachers that I wanted to share was for them to see in their students what their students could become, and to see in their colleagues what they see their colleagues becoming. Michaela Wells, our Teacher of the Year, gave a very inspirational speech about how much the teachers in her life made a difference. And she's a Plainville High School graduate, so she talked quite a bit about our Plainville Community Schools teachers and the impact they had on them. So again, those were the two most important messages that I would hope that staff members walked away with, and I left feeling very inspired. I do want to give you, for informational purposes, enrollment information. So I do have two pieces of paper to pass around that you can put in your journal in case you're asked questions about class enrollments. The first paper I'm passing out is hot off the press, and these are the enrollments for each of our schools as of today. So you have one white piece of paper. Do you need one more? Could I have one more of the colored, Rachel, please? All right, thank you so much. So overall, to let you know where we are with the enrollment of the school district, on this not very fancy chart, you can see each school and what the total enrollment is of each school. For example, Plainville High School, all the way to the right-hand side, we have 689 total students. Middle School of Plainville, a total of 517. Linden Street School, a total of 392. I neglected to label the top of the columns, and I apologize for that, but you can read them from left to right. The first two columns to the left are preschool numbers. So the first column, I believe, are 3-year-olds. The second column, 4-year-olds. And then we have kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So what you're seeing here are the total number of students in each grade level at each school. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. If you're like me, you might be asking, well, how does this enrollment compare to our projections? Last December, Mr. Lewandowski gave you an enrollment report, and the projection for this year was to have 2,337 total students. So we have 66 less students than anticipated based upon the enrollment projections. However, not enough students to make an impact. So we have fewer students spread out throughout all of the grade levels. But that's a question you may be asked. And then I did want to give you a snapshot of class sizes at our elementary school, which is what the colored chart is. This is color-coded based upon grade level. You can see the schools listed to the left along with the grade level. So the first 3 rows are pre-kindergarten at each of our schools. They should all be red. I struggled with getting red in that 43 box, but my wonderful assistant Joan wasn't available to help me with that. So that's why that's not red. It doesn't mean anything. But you can see how many sections of each grade level there are at each school. And I wanted to show this to you because pretty much the class sizes are in alignment across the board at each school, other than in 3rd grade, where we have smaller class sizes this year at Wheeler, 12 and 13 in 3rd grade, I should say 13, 12, and 13, compared to a high of 17, 17, 17 at Linden, which, as you know, sometimes happens depending on the cohort of students. So we won't spend a lot of time tonight looking at this because October 1st is the true date that we look at our enrollment. That's the number we have to report to the state that our federal and state funding is based upon. So we'll give you a formal enrollment update on October 10th at our next Board of Ed meeting. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions about enrollment at this time or any questions about the opening of school. Okay, that completes my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move forward to the board subcommittee reports. We'll begin with Foster for the Facilities and Finance Subcommittee report.
Yes. The Finance and Facilities Committee did meet on Wednesday, August 16th. Most of what we accomplished that evening has been gone over pretty much by both Sam's report and somewhat of also that Dave did. But we did spend a considerable amount of time looking at the middle school next steps, and again, I think the goal and the hope really is that this will move forward with a joint meeting with the council, so that the schedule that was presented to us earlier by Mr. Adelstein tonight will be able to be hopefully somewhat clearly adhered to. We did spend some time going over the SLAM presentation, which went through not only the classroom utilization in all 5 buildings, but also the enrollment projections, for the next 5 years. We did spend a good deal of time as well that evening going over a lot of the ESSER funding, and I think some of the highlights of that were the project with the air conditioning unit on MSP on the gym that has not been done. That was $184,731. These were approved by the board prior to the meeting on the 16th. Also updated on the Teflon Playscape Upstate, as well as the PSH pool, which also was going over tonight with all the drainage work that was done there. So that pretty much is a very brief summation of what we spent the evening doing on the 16th, which was a kind of a multifaceted evening. But if there are any questions, I'll be glad to address those.
Any questions? We're all set. Okay, next is the curriculum subcommittee report. No, I'm sorry, the policy subcommittee report for Crystal.
There's no report tonight.
No report, okay. Now the curriculum subcommittee report for Rebecca.
No report.
Thank you. No report for the outreach subcommittee. PAC liaison, Foster, anything for the high school?
Yes, the next meeting is going to be Wednesday night, the 13th. I was not able to attend the May 10th meeting, but I did make a report to them. And just for the board's information, the new president of the high school PAC is Rebecca Perry. The vice president is Christine Fagan. The treasurer is Anka Benz, and the secretary is Lori Weimer. And the meeting will be this Wednesday night at 7 in the Media Center.
Thank you very much. PTO liaison, Taflon, Rebecca.
Sure, their last meeting in June, they elected for president for this upcoming school year, Barbara Marzi and Rebecca Preston. Vice president is Jenny Witowski, secretary Rebecca Cook, treasurer Ann Tassinelli and Blair Gowell, a scholarship yearbook committee, Robin Crook, Caitlin Buckus, and Jamie Williams, scholastic book fair committee, Rebecca Preston, Jamie Williams, and Barbara Marzi, Sweetheart Bingo Committee, Shelby Moschini, and End of the Year Picnic, Melissa Steele and Rachel Johnson. They also spent some time just going over some of the activities throughout the year and their successes with fundraising. They were able to fund the school calendar, purchase field trip t-shirts for all the new students, have fall festival, Sweetheart Bingo, 2 book fairs. Harlem Globetrotters came in and they gave away their 2 scholarships. So they did a lot of really great work last year. They also funded 5,000 towards field trips, 5th grade picnic, had a water slide. So they were really working hard, and all the outgoing officers will definitely be missed.
Is there a next meeting?
I do not have the next meeting date as of yet.
Okay.
It's not on the calendar yet.
No problem. And Linden Street, Cassandra?
Hi, good evening. For Linden Street School, their next meeting is on the 13th this week at 6 o'clock in the Linden Library. They've always done some great work, and the invitation's out for anybody that's interested to come and join Nicole, so along with the rest of the team. So look forward to updating next month.
Okay, so we don't have a meeting date either.
No, it's this Wednesday, the 13th.
Oh, sorry, I must
That's
have
okay.
missed that.
6 o'clock.
Thank you. 6 o'clock, okay. Let's see here. Middle school liaison, Crystal?
Yep, so the MSP PTC will meet tomorrow, Tuesday, September 12th at 7 p.m. in the library with their new officers, President Amy Perteos, Vice President Amy Fontaine, Treasurer Don Cookich, and Secretary Meg Gary Schenk. So that's tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Great, thank you. Wheeler School, Rachel?
Yes, thank you. Newly elected PTO officers, Justine Thibodeau, President, Carissa Reinflesch, Vice President, Katie Seek, Secretary, and Heather Lanza, Treasurer. Congratulations. And thank you to all of the outgoing officers. Wheeler's off to a great start. This is from Mr. B. Students, parents, and staff had a nice first day opening ceremony out back where we sang a couple of patriotic songs and gathered with families, teachers, and students. Upcoming event for the PTO is the annual and popular Trunk or Treat, Friday night, October 27th, beginning at 6 p.m. at Wheeler. Families decorate their cars and kids travel from trunk to trunk saying trick or treat, collecting goodies. They'll have a DJ and other games too, lots of fun. And I do not have the PTO meeting date.
Okay, thank you. And Becky, the correct council report?
The correct council's first meeting of the year will be next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, okay. And chairperson's report, I'll try to keep it brief. For this evening's chair report, I'd like to give you a brief scenario of what our process, of what process the board has gone through for the selection of our new superintendent, Brian Reese. We outreached, we meaning the board, outreached to a few consulting firms, and together we chose the agency that we felt had the ability to meet our expectations, as well as the goals that we felt were important for a new superintendent. The job opportunity was posted inside and outside, and throughout the summer, we received many applicants, and together with our consulting agency, had several meetings regarding who would be the best fit according to the surveys that went out via email to families, administrators, and students. We took all the information from the surveys so that we knew what the public wanted, what type of person they were looking for. After reviewing and selecting the applicants and also agreeing together as a board, the interviewing process began, following with second interviews and finally selecting unanimously as a board the final candidate. Mr. Reese will start with us on October 16th, and Mr. Case will stay until October 31st. A reminder for our board members, CABE conference is coming up in November. Please see Joan if you're interested. Thank you so much. We'll move over to unfinished business. And there's no unfinished business, so we'll move up to board open forum. Does anyone have anything they'd like to speak about?
I would just quickly like to say we had two kind of delectable treats to consume, solve our appetites tonight. One was a cake, and at the risk of alienating Joan, I have to say that Ashley Carl's basil sauce on those tomatoes was outstanding, and I would kill to have that recipe.
Yeah, same.
We'll get that for you.
Don't kill. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
I just want to say welcome, Jared, and congratulations, Crystal. I know that you have to do a lot of coursework, and I'm not surprised at all that you got it all in and got it all done, but we're really lucky to have you.
I'm going to jump right in. I just wanted to say that our presentations tonight, I'm tired. I'm just tired. So it was just difficult to kind of sit here and take all this in. But in my brain, I'm just thinking about, the years of work that it takes to get to a place and where we are right now. The things that Lynn Davis has done over the years, the things that our technology department, our facilities folks, curriculum folks. And it's just really, really, I'm very proud to say that, this is the district that I've served on for a long time. So thank you all for everything that you have done. I know people think summertime is downtime. Sometimes in a school district, summertime is like complete and total chaos.
Not this year, yeah.
And, and it's not downtime. It's building time, So it's really important. Just a quick thing popped into my mind, though. Could we do building tours? I think we talked about that, Foster, for facilities, didn't we? And when I'm seeing all these really great branding, opportunities, I kind of wanted to see them in person too. So that would be awesome. And I just had a quick question as to whether or not the convocation was videotaped.
I believe so. Wasn't Kevin there? Was convocation videotaped? No.
It was all right. I'll have to get Michaela to repeat hers. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry about that.
Hi, thank you. I would just like to say congratulations to our PCS All-Stars this evening. Just terrific, the behind-the-scenes work that has been accomplished in such a short amount of time. I'm excited to see the fruits of their labor and those ESSER funds really being put to some great work. So thank you, everyone, for that. I would like to say thank you very much to Lori Peterson for your time and dedication to this Board of Education. It's folks like you who inspired folks like me. So thank you for your service. And I would like to welcome Jared Bruzis to the team, and thank you for being willing to step up. You're an amazing addition. I too need the recipe for the basil dip, which was absolutely incredible. I'm super excited to have Anthony Spencer here. I've had the pleasure of working with him in a coaching capacity, and he is liked by all, an incredible person. Always felt safer with him present. So I was just so excited to hear that that hire was made. A very good fit. And his kids went through the school system, so it's perfect. Just want to be quick. I was very excited to see that we used a local company for the tile in the pool area. That's fantastic. It's nice to see that when we can do it. Huge congratulations on the Telly Award. As an alumni, it's just amazing to see. It's elevated. Everything's elevated. That word consistency sums it up beautifully. It's elevated consistency and just very well done. I don't know when any of you sleep. And I would just like to say thank you to our interim superintendent, Mr. Case, who has jumped in with his, not just all of his time, energy, and compassion, but his whole heart. You are going to leave a lasting impression on this group during what could have been a tumultuous time, and have really steered us forward strongly. And lastly, I just want to thank this Board of Education for the unseen work that was done this summer. Incredibly proud of the work that we did this summer. It was not easy. We learned a lot, and I would have to say that well done by every person sitting up here. So thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Culture and climate matter, and these beautiful facilities matter. And they really mattered not only to the students, but also to the faculty who want to work in a great place like this and throughout the entire district. I have been pleased to have been through most of the buildings recently, and also my 4 kids going to Linden, and the great work that Vicky's been doing, and all 4 of my kids have been through your programs, and 1 currently, and the remarkable work that you do behind the scenes that goes so unsung. So know that we as families and parents within the district are most grateful for what you do to make our programs, our schools, and our facilities home, a home away from home, and a place that's attractive to wonderful staff and faculty, so they can show up and give our students the best. And so what you have done is truly remarkable, and it reflects your dedication, commitment to our Plainville Community School System, which I'm most grateful for. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move forward to approval of new supervisor for special services. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of Nikki Buccini, new supervisor of special services, effective start date of August 21st, 2023?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. I'm going to move down to section C, approval of authorized signature change. Do I have a motion to approve a new signature with new Superintendent Brian Reese for the ED 099 agreement for child nutrition program, which will begin on October 16th, 2023?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
All in favor? Oh, second, sorry.
Second.
You second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. request approval of nurses contract for 2023 through 2026. The nurses are not a part of the bargaining unit. Do I have a motion to approve the 3-year nurses contract for the period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026 as presented?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Madam Chair, may I just say a few words about it
Sure.
before the vote? So I hope you've all had a chance to look at the contract. The main changes, there were some language changes, then the other change was a 3% salary increase over a 3-year period. And then you could see the co-payment for insurance increasing also over a 3-year period. So those were the major changes. I just wanted to point those out. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the 3-year nurses contract for the period of July 1st, 2023 to 6/30/2026 as
I
presented?
think we did that.
Oh,
So it's
do we have a second?
Only a vote now.
Oh.
Sorry,
well,
I messed
thought
you
you
up, Laura.
interrupted, yeah.
I did, I'm so sorry.
Acceptance, we're gonna move to the acceptance of the BOE member resignation.
We just need to jump back to a vote. So all in favor of the nurses
I
contract?
thought we did that.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the resignation with regret of board member Lori Peterson effective August 13th, 2023?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Is there any need for discussion on any of the items on the consent agenda? If there's no discussion, can I get a motion to approve the entire consent agenda as presented?
Madam Chair, I move we accept the consent agenda as presented,
Thank you.
including items A through H.
And do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion passes.
I would just like, thank you, everyone. I just want to point out for the public that is part of the consent. I just want to point out for the public tonight that as part of the consent agenda, the board just approved the Plainville High School graduation date to be Wednesday, June 12th, 2024, and that's important for planning purposes. So everyone can move ahead and invite their family, friends, and the party. After party planning can begin. So June 12th, 2024.
Thank you.
And that date is set no matter how many snow days or
or-
emergency cancellations we have. So we can all plan on that.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Motion unanimously carries. Have a good night, everyone.